Entrepreneurship is something rarely spoken about. So, on today's episode, I decided to shed the light on the entrepreneurial spirit. Enter Aaron Wallace, a man with a vision, a man with a product, and a man with a business mind. Now, I've personally watched him grow his business year after year, and now he has a quality mainstream product ready for consumption. But what was it like to start a business? Highs, the lows, the pitfalls, things to avoid. I sat down to speak with him. Aaron Wallace, man. Thank you, bro.
No problem, man.
Thank you for joining me. Right. So, Kanye West
Yes.
famously said, you know white people, they get money, don't spend it. Or they get money and buy a business. He would rather buy 80 gold chains and go ignorant. Right? So,
Yeah.
what's better, buying a business or the 80 gold chains?
Obviously the 80 gold chains. No, clearly it's buying a business. You have to invest in yourself, and I mean you can buy 80 gold chains, but what's the ROI on that?
Let people know, break it down. What is your business?
So we make hair care products specifically focused and specifically formulated for Afro-Caribbean men. Yeah, so that's beard oils, shampoo, conditioner, hair moisturizer, all specifically formulated for men of colour, black men.
Okay, so when did you see the gap in the market for that product and what made you pursue that?
So I had my barber shop in Croydon, and just literally from cutting hair.
What year are we talking?
This is a couple. Do you know what? When it comes to time and dates, I'm just.
Because I remember the barber shop.
I try so hard to live in the present that I always get mixed up with dates. So probably about 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
So I was cutting hair, and I noticed that a lot of black men suffered from very similar issues. There was a lot of dry scalp, a lot of dandruff, a lot of the same thing that I was seeing with a lot of black men. And when I would
Razor bumps?
razor bumps, not as common, but a lot of black men that I spoke to would say that they've had issues with razor bumps.
Right, okay.
And they would say that that's an issue as well.
Right.
Yeah, so from cutting hair, I would often speak to men and say, you know, it is a lot of the time you say, bro, you know that your hair is quite dry, you know, you need to dry. And a lot of the times they'd be like, yeah, I got dry hair. A lot of the men I found that they kind of just accepted that they had dry hair.
Right.
Or they kind of just thought, yeah, my hair is dry, that's just how it grows, kind of thing. And I realised I'd be like, but you know it doesn't have to be dry.
Right.
It's like a lot of black men had just accepted it. With women, they're more clued up and more educated on their hair care and what their hair needs. So if they realise their hair is dry, they're more likely to go out of their way to find the products that are going to soften their hair.
Right.
Whereas men were more relaxed about it. They're just like, yeah, okay, it's just dry. So just from having conversations with them and saying, well, you know, you could do this and you could do that to try and improve it, eventually the conversation would come to, okay, so what do I use on my hair? Where do I go? And it was difficult because I couldn't really point them into the direction of go to this site or go to your local Tesco's or whatever and pick this up. Because to find products for men, black men in this country was quite difficult. So I thought, obviously, as they're kind of hair confident, it makes sense for me to provide that solution to them. Right. And yeah, that's how I kind of.
That's how you started.
Journey, yeah.
So what did you start out with? What, just oil or?
So I started out with just looking into what are the differences with Afro hair and European hair, and what are the things that really, what are the fundamentals of healthy Afro hair? Like, what do we really need in order for your whatever type of Afro hair you have to improve the condition of it?
Because I'm not gonna lie, I said you can walk down your high street and see a lot of products for women, but rarely for men.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of feel like you touched on something that was, I guess, was needed.
Yeah.
Like, so And it was the barbershop experience that got you into that?
It was the barbershop experience, and another one was that a lot of black men are trying to grow their beards out now. So
Yeah.
the whole beard movement has made men a lot more conscious about their hair. And as a result, they're more conscious about the hair on their head as well.
See, I can't grow a full beard, you know.
I've heard that many times.
I can't do it.
Everyone can. That's the thing.
You're telling me that with your product, I could grow a full beard?
My product and a routine. It's all about your routine.
Right.
So yeah, anyone can grow it out. You've got hair there.
Yeah, I have, but it's like...
Yeah, so you've got hair there. So the follicles are producing hair. So that's like stage one. So now it's just about maintaining it and improving the condition of it. And
So did you have to get, like, when you were researching the product and stuff, did you have to go into the science? Did you have to go into like...
Yeah, we went into the science, and we worked with a manufacturer as well who kind of helped us as well. And so I basically looked at some of the key ingredients that I wanted to include in the product.
Right.
Like our, it's got your fundamentals, it's got your black castor seed oil, coconut oils, which are really good. But our hero ingredients are our...
Hero?
We say our hero ingredients because these are like the ingredients that I would say are really takes it to the next level. So, So one would be our black seed oil. And black seed oil is one of those oils that's been around for thousands of years, and it has so many medicinal uses. It can be used for whole holistic health. Like you can ingest it, you can use it on your skin, your hair.
Right.
It's been dubbed the cure for everything except death. So it's been used by the ancient Egyptians. It's been used by the ancient Arabs. It's been used in loads of different cultures for a very long time. So that was number one. I said we need to include this ingredient.
Okay.
And then the other one was mango butter. So the butter from the mango that you get from the inside of the skin of the mango is really good for healing the hair and conditioning the hair.
Right.
Yeah. So so we basically took those concepts to formulators and we worked together, and it took about 6 months, a year.
Because I remember when you first started your product.
Yeah.
And that was because you were selling them in your barbershop.
Yeah.
You were selling them in your barbershop.
Yeah.
So what has been the change from that product when you first started till now?
Money.
Okay.
So we've been able to put a bit more money into it.
Right.
So we've been able to improve the formulations. So you've got more of the active ingredients in there.
Right.
We've been able to make it completely natural now. So we've taken out anything that had any kind of sulfates or anything like that. And yeah, it's basically just taking it to the next level of what they were previously. So and included the black seed oil and the mango butter that wasn't in it before.
So you spoke about the money. Yeah. So when you first start a business, like, because there's a lot of people out there that want to start one.
Yeah.
So when you first start one, and when it gets to the point of, okay, cool, I have a vision, I think I have a product, like, how do I get the money? What is done to get the money behind the product?
Yeah. So there's lots of different ways. So there's lots of different ways, and it kind of depends on the cards you have to play with, like what you have to, because if you come from a family where your dad can give you a small loan of $1 million, it's going to be completely different.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So if you have the network, then that would obviously be your first step. Your first point of call.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you have the credit, then you would go to a bank
and get a loan. Okay. Is that what you done?
So I used a combination. I got a startup loan from the government. I don't know if they're still doing it now, but I think they are. So I got a startup loan for
a business loan.
Yeah, startup loan. It was like a enterprise loan.
Okay.
So that would be the first step: get a startup loan, and then the other was savings.
Right.
Savings.
So you literally invested your own savings into your product.
Yeah. So I saved for.
So it has to work.
Yeah. I saved up for about a year. Sold my car.
Wow.
And yeah, savings. Sold the car. Got the startup loan, and then put that all together.
Because the thing is, a lot of people do. I know a lot of people that want to start a business, but when you say you had to like sell your own car, take your own savings, a lot of people are not willing to do those types of things. I've found like they expect it to come from somewhere, but not from themselves. Yeah. So is that something that you would say needs to be done? Like you need to invest in yourself?
You have to be prepared to invest in yourself, and you have to be prepared to take the risk. And I mean, at the end of the day, the worst case scenario, your business doesn't work. You've put a couple grand, 10 grand, 15 grand into it. Okay, it doesn't work. Like, life goes on. Like, you're gonna, like, did you die? No. Like, you're still gonna live. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I look at it. I mean, I know that I'm simplifying it, but at the end of the day, that is what it comes down to. It kind of is what it is. It's either you put the money in and you take the risk and you jump, or you don't. But the money's not going to magically appear in your account. You're not going to get, no one's going to just come and give you 10 grand or 20 grand. Do you know what I mean? So it has to come from somewhere. And wherever it comes from, there's going to be a risk. If it comes from the bank, they're going to want it back with interest. If it comes from friends and family, they're going to want it back, or it's going to affect your relationships. And if it's from your own savings, then it's from your own savings. So it has to come from somewhere. It has to be
when you started, or in your journey as becoming like an entrepreneur businessman, have you lost people? Have you lost friends because of your business?
I wouldn't say I lost friends. No, I wouldn't say I lost friends. But you have less time for social events.
Right.
And you start to look at everything differently. You start to look at the financial implications of social events.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? So it's like, yeah, I could go to the casino with you guys, but do I really have that money to just throw away? Or yeah, I could go on a night out, but do I really want to spend 100, 200 pounds on a night out? Or could that be put towards my pot that I'm growing to start my business, or to get the next production run going, or whatever it is that I'm trying to do? So I wouldn't say I lost friends, but you kind of have to make that shift where you have to make sacrifices in order for the greater good. I've kind of restricted myself to like two or three shows.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I literally watch about 2 or 3 shows, and that's it. I don't really spend a lot of time on like entertainment. Do you know what I mean? Because my focus is, I believe in having laser focus on what I'm trying to achieve. I'm quite hard on myself in that for me, I can't sit and be watching the latest episode of Power if my to-do list is still sitting there undone. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So for me, in order for me to even be able to relax, I need to complete tasks for the day. Because at the end of the day, this is taking me to where I want to go.
Okay, so working for yourself, a lot of people work for other people. What are the pros and cons, I guess, of working for yourself?
Yeah, so pros, obviously you can start and finish when you want, and you haven't really got like a boss telling you what to do and where to go. But the cons is, at the end of the day, everything rests on your shoulders. And when you start a business, when you're trying to get a business off the ground, you have to understand that everything is your responsibility. Right. And everything is your fault. So even when things that go wrong, that are kind of outside of your comprehension or could be predicted, you still have to say, okay, what could I have done to prevent this? And what can I do going forward to not let this happen again? So you have to take responsibility for everything that happens in your business. If you have a to-do list that has 5 things to do and you don't get it completed, okay, what do I need to do? How much time did I lose today that prevented me from doing what I needed to do? And what do I need to filter out in future? So
when you actually hit a bump in the road, because I'm sure within business you do, when you hit that, what was what did you do?
So I mean, in the early stages, when you're starting out in the business, I always say like there's these dragons that you have when you're getting into business. Right. The dragons are fear, self-doubt, anxiety, imposter syndrome. It's different.
Imposter syndrome, what do you mean?
Imposter syndrome is when you, so
when you feel like you're...
I'll get to that.
Okay, go on.
So everyone has different dragons that they have to face. Like these are mental internal dragons that you have to face, and everyone's is going to be different because everyone's fears are different. But I would say when you get into business, in the early stages, you might not, unless your dad or uncle or someone close to you was a hugely successful business person, most of us don't really know what we're doing in the very early stages of starting a business.
Correct.
So
you don't have someone to look to say, I want to be like that.
Yes, and you don't always have a mentor to guide you either, and kind of swerve you away from the potholes and the minefields of business. So sometimes, as you're learning, you're gonna trip up, and when you trip up, those are when the dragons come into play.
Right.
So when you trip up when you hit a hurdle or you hit a bump in the road, that's when the imposter syndrome comes in, and the imposter syndrome says, you don't deserve to be here. You don't know what you're doing. Look at this mistake you've just made. Do you know what I mean? And those are the kind of mental barriers that can stop you from getting to the next stage of business.
So where did you grow up?
South London.
So, okay, so you're a young black man from South London.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to be successful. Is that no? But I'm saying, is that one of the dragons? Is that like one of them that will say, "Oh, well, I shouldn't really have this. It shouldn't."
For someone, it could be. You know, for me, I grew up in a place called Grove Park. I don't know if you know
I know Grove Park. Yeah.
And Grove Park is like literally when I was growing up. So literally to my right, I had Lewisham, New Cross, Peckham, and to my left, I had like Bromley, Sevenoaks. Do you know what I mean? Like all that way. So I kind of saw both ends of the spectrum. I saw like how the two sides live, so to speak.
Okay.
And the school that I went to, it was primarily white school.
Okay.
And I was like a BC student, ABC student.
Right.
So for me, I never felt that I was lesser than anyone else in the school. I never felt that I'm not supposed to succeed. I always saw it as I'm smarter than Gary, Liam. Do you know what I mean? Like I've beaten them on tests. You know what I mean? The
reason why I say that is because a lot of young black youth, I feel when I speak to them, they feel like they don't deserve a lot of things. That's like the underlying conversation that I have. Like, well, I'm just from here, innit, and this my ends, and I love my hood, and it's like my whole thing is, you yourself have said, okay, cool, that's fine, but I can see outside of that, and I want to kind of get the mentality in that we can actually see outside, you know, the confines of where we are growing up.
It's like we often reinforce that stereotype among ourselves. We reinforce it, especially when we're like, if we're all living in not the best environments, and every day is a struggle. And it's hard when you're kind of struggling day to day. It's very difficult to see the bigger picture,
right?
Because you're focused on quote unquote eating today. Do you know what I mean? You're in survival rather than flourishing,
right?
So, but unless you look at the bigger picture and make steps towards the bigger picture, you'll always be in survival. So the question you need to ask yourself is, do I want to stay here in survival, or do I want to start making steps towards thriving,
right?
For my future generations, do you know what I mean?
So you started. So when you decided, let's say when you decided, all right, cool, this is for me, this is what I'm going to do. What was your first step?
In business?
In business.
First step was getting a solid plan out of my head and onto paper.
Right.
Because so many times we have ideas and we have good ideas, but they're up here. And when they're up here, they're kind of swimming around. It's like it's not definitive.
Right.
When you get them out of your head and onto paper, and then you start doing the numbers, and then you start, you know, really breaking it down, that's when your idea becomes, okay, is this actually viable? Like, is this, now that I've gotten it out of my head and I'm looking at the numbers, is this actually realistic? And sometimes you might find, you know what, nah, it's not.
Right.
So then,
but that takes self-awareness though, you see. I would say, because a lot of people, I see a lot of people with businesses fail. Yeah. And I feel like they failed because they didn't know their limits. And I know you're not supposed to put limits on yourself, but it's like saying, okay, I'm going to become the next Jay-Z or whatever. It doesn't happen overnight. So Jay-Z became who he was, let's say, as a mogul because he'd went step by step by step by step. He conquered the music, then he done the fashion, then this. And I find a lot of people nowadays don't focus on one thing. Would you say it's better to focus on one thing?
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, it's about laser focus. So it's about saying, I mean, like you meet some people who have 4, 5, 6 businesses, and that's all great. But are all 5 making money? And if they are, did they launch all 5 at the same time?
Right.
Probably not. Most people that have a bunch of businesses, they focus in on one first. It's like getting that plate spinning. So you get that. You can't spin 5 plates at the same time. You can't start them all at the same time. You have to get one plate spinning first.
Right.
Okay, that's spinning. Then you get the next plate spinning. Okay, cool. Get the next plate spinning. And then when they're all spinning, now you're just maintaining them. Right. But you can't build all 3 at the same time.
Right.
It's going to be very difficult to do that. And I've tried that. Right. I think everyone, there's something called shiny object syndrome. Right. And it's like we have an idea and we're like, you know what, this idea would be really great. This would be a really great idea. So you start working on this idea and then someone comes to you and says, oh, have you heard about this?
So-and-so, yeah.
You could make lots of money doing this, or this would be even better idea, opportunity than like these. Okay,
and you jump from idea to idea to idea.
You jump from idea to idea and then you never really hit the home run with any of them. So for me, I feel that we're really serving a need for black men. I feel like there's a strong need there and there's a strong opportunity to provide an amazing product there. So I'm not really trying, and people come to me and offer me different opportunities all the time, and you have to be kind of comfortable with saying no, even if they're good opportunities. Right. And some people have come to me with some really good ideas, but
because now you've got to think about your brand.
I've got to think, and I've got to think about the time.
Right.
I've got to think about in order to, like, once you really put all of your energy and focus into one thing, you start to become conscious of just how much work it's going to take to get this off the ground. Right. And once you realize just how much time and work and effort it's going to take to get this off the ground, you realize I can't do this 3-4 times with 3-4 different companies at the same time. I need to really put everything into one thing. Right. And once that is where you want it to be and the plate is spinning, then you can start to look at other things and then you can become Jay-Z and have loads of different things going. Yeah.
So, but that was your advert, and it was nicely shot, actually. It was nicely shot. Just doing that, getting models together. I guess you had to get costume together. All of that. These, for me, these are some of because a lot of people watch what myself and Adoink do with this show, right? And what I get is a lot of people coming up to me saying, okay, I saw your product, it was nicely shot, or I saw what you're doing, it was nicely shot, it was slick, etc., etc. I want to get into it. And then what happens a lot of the time is I start speaking to them just to kind of see where their brain's at. And then you kind of realize that, like you say, shiny object syndrome, like they saw something that was really good and they were like, oh yeah, I want to do that. And they come talking to you and they're so like, enthusiastic, and you realize they kind of fall out. Like, what does it take to not fall by the wayside?
I think, again, like with the dragons that I mentioned earlier, one of the dragons that a lot of people have is self-doubt.
Right.
So when you have that self-doubt that's lingering in the background, or you feel, like you said, I'm black, I'm not supposed to be successful.
Yeah.
Or you have the imposter syndrome that says, I don't really know what I'm doing. Then as soon as you hit a bump in the road, you're more likely to fall off. You're more likely to say, do you know what? Let me just forget it. Or do you know what I mean? You're more likely to falter. So for me, I would say if you expect these things, you're more prepared for them.
Right.
If you expect the self-doubt to come, if
Right.
you know that this is just part of the process, if
Right.
you have the mindfulness and the self-consciousness to understand that this is just my body, this is just my body's natural fear. Like
Right.
we all experience fear, and it's kind of a survival mechanism. It's a deep evolutionary biological survival mechanism. Fear. It's to keep us safe.
Yeah.
So the fear tells us there's a lion over there, don't go there. Or, you know, or if I touch that fire, I'll be hurt. If I do this, it will hurt me. So all the fear is doing is
If
saying,
I invest that money, I might lose it.
I might lose it, and then I might struggle. So that's all that fear is. So understand that that's all your body is telling you, is trying to keep you safe. But you have to kind of override that subconscious programming and say, okay, I understand that there's a risk here, but you have to feel the fear and do it anyway.
So then would you say that starting a business, like a big part of it is mental?
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Huge part of it is mental.
So what philosophy, so do you have any philosophies that help you in your business?
I live by, I live by a philosophy called Stoicism. It's like an ancient Greek philosophy, and it's basically just understanding that everything kind of is what it is, and everything is going to be what it's going to be.
Right.
So there are events that are within your control, and there are events that are outside of your control, and you can only control the events that are within your control.
Right.
You can only control yourself and how you feel about any situation. So an example I always give is, say for example, you have a kid who doesn't see their dad often. So you can have one kid that doesn't see their dad often. One kid will say, I never see my dad, he doesn't love me, he hates me, and goes off the rails. Another kid can say, do you know what, I don't see my dad very often, but I know that he's working very hard to bring money home to the family, to help me to get to whatever I need to do in life.
Right,
he's
right.
working to support me. The event is exactly the same.
Same, as in not seeing your
Yeah,
dad.
but how the person
Interprets
interprets it is down to them individually. And that idea applies to everything. You could be driving your car and someone cuts you off the road. You decide whether you're going to beep your horn and scream at that person, or if you're going to just say, idiot, and continue your day.
Right.
So it's just about understanding that everything is within your control.
Right.
So when you face these mental barriers and these mental blocks, it's you have the mental power to overcome anything mentally. And yeah.
Okay. So, all right, so let's talk about marketing. So when you've got your product now, marketing, what is the best way in which to market? Is social? I'm guessing social media is a big.
Yeah, social media is really big. So my co-founder, Lena, she's really good at marketing.
Right.
So that's kind of her domain, is the marketing.
Right.
And we focus. Her thing is primarily Instagram. Working with influencers, so building a base of people who really love your product and represent your product.
Right.
So at the moment we have 30 brand ambassadors.
30?
Yeah, 30
Wow.
brand ambassadors. Combined, their reach is about 250k.
Okay.
So they are basically like our spokespeople for the brand,
Okay.
and they help to push the brand out. I lean more towards the Facebook advertising
Okay.
and the the Google and the YouTube advertising. So
Right.
basically finding what black men are interested in, what our customer base are interested in, and then showing them our adverts. So people that have engaged with our brand and like our brand, are more likely to see our adverts.
Right.
And that's more the online side of things. And then at the moment we're moving into a bit more physical marketing, so teaming up with a lot of the barbershops around London.
Okay.
So I think we're in about 12 barbershops at the moment.
In London?
In
or,
London.
Or just in London, yeah?
In London, yeah.
Okay.
And we're planning to expand that. And
So do you ship your products outside of the UK?
yeah, so we get orders that at the moment is largely UK and America. And we're trying to think of ways how we can appeal more in Africa as well, because we've got a lot of interest in the African markets. We get a lot of interest from Ghana, Nigeria. A lot of people message us all the time, are your products available to us here? We do ship there occasionally, but it's quite expensive at the moment. So, I mean, our products are already kind of on the premium end. So then to add large shipping on top of that, we're trying to think of collaborating with some retailers out there so that we can make it more cost effective for the customers. Yeah.
Okay.
In the future, we'll have our own manufacturing out there.
Right.
That will just make life so much.
So your manufacturer's currently in the UK?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said at the beginning of this episode, I want black people specifically to know that we can control our own narratives now. I think a lot of the time we get told what we are. And I know people, you know people who aren't a narrative that is being told. So I just wanted to tell your story. Like I wanted to tell the story. I want to tell the story of business people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I want to tell the story of teachers,
Yeah.
of educators, free thinkers, people like black people in general. I really do feel like we need to start controlling our own narratives. And what you've done for me, like, you know, when you were saying earlier on and you were saying that you never had someone to look to for like a businessman, an entrepreneur, etc.
Yeah.
And now you're that person.
Yeah.
So no, but you are though. This is what I'm trying to say. So now you're that guy. Whoever's watching this, young, do you know what I'm saying? Person who wants to start, they've got you as a reference point now. Do you get what I'm saying? And I actually really like that.
Do you know what I would say is another good one? Yeah. That's often overlooked is meditation. Meditation, I would say, is very, very powerful because
for business. Or,
yeah,
or for yourself internally.
For business,
right.
For life and for business, but for both. They go hand in hand. So in society we have a lot of subconscious programming. A lot of the time we're told what we can be, what we can't be. What meditation does is, one, it allows you to clear your mind it makes you more conscious of your thoughts. It makes you more conscious of
mindfulness.
Yes, it makes you more so a lot of the time you could have whatever complex you have going on subconsciously. Those subconscious thoughts affect how you behave.
100%.
So you might find yourself lashing out at certain things, but you're not aware of it. When you meditate, you start to understand what is going on at the back of my mind, what is going on deep down. And when you become more aware of those thoughts, then you're able to start reprogramming those thoughts. So affirmations is really good. So if you have an affirmation of what you want to, say for example, you've got a really short temper and you want to be more patient. If you write the affirmation, I am patient.
Right.
When you meditate, you repeat that affirmation to yourself, I am patient, I am patient. Eventually,
you're going to need patience.
That message starts to go into your subconscious.
Right.
So the next time someone cuts you up on the road, I'm a patient person. It's cool.
Right.
Sounds a little bit airy-fairy,
yeah.
but I'm telling you,
it's helped you.
It helps because at the end of the day, we are but a collection of our thoughts. all of the thoughts that we've had, every person that you've met in your life, every book that you've read, all contributes to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said back with Stoicism, we have the ability to shape who we want to be.
Right.
We have the ability to mold ourselves into the person that we want to be, and it's not an overnight thing. It's a continual evolution thing. It's a I want to get 1% better every day thing.
Right.
And if you get 1% better every day over 5 years, 10 years, it compounds, and you will eventually become the person that you want to be. So if you want to launch, you want to start your own company, and you want to have a really successful business, you cannot be, for a lot of the time, you cannot be the person who you currently are. You have to change. You have to change.
Yeah.
So you have to start thinking as someone who has a successful business.
Right.
So you look at someone who has a successful business, okay, how do they think? How do they operate? What are the subconscious thoughts that they're having, and how can I move more into that vibration? And that meditation is really good.
I've said that for a long time, that a lot of us need to change our thinking if we're ever going to get somewhere, because a lot of us do repeat the same behaviors and expect different results.
Yeah.
So I know that within myself, I know that the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I changed. Do you know what I mean? I was one way, you know, and I saw something, or I saw, you know, a way to be, I wanted to have, you know, all of these things, but I wasn't ready as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, you're just not ready to change because, you know, like you said, that dragon or that demon will come back and say, you're not that guy, you know. You're not that guy. And it's like, actually, do you know what? I am, and I'm gonna be that guy. Do you know what I mean? And and I feel like that is, but what happens though with that, I find, is that you lose a lot of people.
Yeah, you will lose some people, because at the end of the day, if you're moving in, the person you are right now might be someone who likes to smoke, get high every day, wake and bake, live life for today, blah 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 blah. The person you want to become might be someone who saves, thinks, philosophizes, and is really minimalist in their spending. So when you start to make that transition into that person that you want to become, those people might not resonate with you, because
100%.
what they like to do and what they enjoy doing is no longer what you enjoy doing. So it doesn't always have to be a case of, okay, I'm now this, that means that.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it will just naturally happen.
It might naturally happen. I've got certain friends from like way back in school. You know, sometimes you run into an old friend from school, and they might have gone down a completely different path. Like they could become like a grunge or a goth or whatever. And then you see them again, and you're like, "How you been, man?" Like, you know what I mean? It's like, just because we are now in different spaces, that doesn't mean that we now have to become enemies. We can still be cool with each other, you know. But we've just, it's all about
100%.
It's all about. My daughter once said to me, "What's the meaning of life?" And I said, the meaning of life is whatever you want it to be. So if your old acquaintance is now a goth, or now a grunge, or is now a whatever, insert whatever, and you're now here, is that person happy in the space that they're in? Because if they're happy being a rock star or a punk rock, then they are living they are in accordance with what they believe is life to them. And if it's all about being content and happy with the decisions that you've made. So yeah, that's the
Aaron Wallace, the philosophical businessman. Listen, bro, thank you for coming through. I wish you nothing but success with your business, bro.
Thank you, man.
Onwards and upwards, and I will be supporting.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All right, bro.
Check us out. Let us know your beard journey.
I'll try, bro. I'll try. All right. Peace, family. Peace.